TIFU by being an asshole to my best customer. So, this happened a couple of years ago. Pre-pandemic. I owned a comic book and game store in a metropolitan area and I'd been there for several years. As with any place of business, you get your regulars. I had 2 employees that worked for me. One of which was a young lady that had worked with one of my regular customers from the area. Now, this regular customer, we'll call him Mr. M, typically came in on the weekends when I wasn't there. But every once in a while he'd come in during the week and talk with me about miniatures or comics. Or whatever tabletop game was coming out. He didn't make an impression on me one way or the other. Then, one day, he stopped coming in. My female employee, we'll call her Ms. F, told me that Mr. M was hurt really bad at work and he had asked her to make his purchases while he was in the hospital. And I didn't think much about it. Fast forward to about 6 months later. Mr. M comes into the store and he's in a wheelchair. His girlfriend is with him. We'll call her Ms. G. Now, full transparency. I had a huge crush on Ms. G. I would gush like an idiot around her and spend way too much time explaining some inane thing she'd ask about just to be talking her up. She is probably one of the most intelligent women I've ever met. Funny and beautiful to boot. Mr. M had to have noticed, but he never said anything about it. And after he was in a wheelchair, I spent a little more time talking to him. It turns out he was a really cool guy, led an amazing life and was well liked by the other customers that came into my store. After his injury, I noticed him coming in more frequently. Since he wasn't able to work, he was always with his girlfriend because he could no longer drive himself, and we sort of became friends. I went to visit him at his home a couple of times. It was a modest place, but you could tell everything in it was high quality. He had a gaming room and a video game arcade in part of the house. One day while I was there, my employee Ms. F showed up at his house, came in with her own key and went into his room and came out wearing different clothes. It threw me off, so I asked what the deal was and found out that Mr. M was dating his girlfriend, Ms. G, and my employee at the same time, and they were open about it. A couple of days later, when Ms. G came into the store with Mr. M, I tentatively broached the subject with Ms. G, and she not only confirmed, but even told me they were trying to find a way to make it official between the 3 of them. That's when the jealousy kicked in. Mr. M was a nice guy, and he wasn't ugly or anything, but I just couldn't for life of me figure out how this guy, even before he was in a wheelchair, could land 2 of the most beautiful and intelligent women I had ever met at the same time. And they wanted to be sister wives with the guy. I kept it to myself, of course, and life carried on like this for about 18 more months. Then the fuck up happened. I was having a pretty shitty week at the store. One employee had quit without notice and Ms. F had taken some time off in advance to focus on school. I had some temp help, but this guy was an idiot and could do little more than bag comics and put things on the shelf. During this time, I had quite a few customers try to haggle me down in price on my merchandise. I don't know what was going on, but it seemed like every other customer wanted some kind of discount. Then, Mr. M came in. He had ordered some new stuff for a game he played. While he was ordering them, he and I were talking and he asked, "Since I'm buying so many of these, is there a chance I could get a better price on them?" Quote, full disclosure, he had ordered 10 cases of stuff. I was charging him full retail plus my markup. There was plenty of wiggle room for me to give him a discount of some kind. I could have given him 40% off and still walked away with a profit. Also, it should be noted, if he hadn't been ordering these 10 cases, I would never have had the stock in my store to begin with. It was basically free money. Instead of giving him a discount, I yelled at him in front of about half a dozen other customers. "You're a fucking asshole. Are you seriously asking me for a discount? What is with you people and your discounts? Do you think I'm running a charity here? I have to make money to pay the bills here." Quote. And it went on like this for about 5 minutes of him just sitting there in his wheelchair looking up at me while I piled on every complaint about shitty customers that came to mind. I don't know what came over me, but I felt like I had some small measure of power over this guy, and my jealousy wouldn't let me abate my temper. After I took a breath and stepped back, that's when I knew I fucked up. Everyone was staring at me. One person had their phone out, recording. Ms. F had walked in at some point and watched this tirade unfolding. Every time Ms. G had tried to wheel Mr. M away, he would just gently put his hand on hers and stop her. He didn't say a word the whole time I was losing my shit. Not a single word. Then, as if nothing had happened, he said, "Okay, my man. My bad for asking. I didn't know you felt so strongly about it. Here, let me pay for my order and give me a call when the stuff comes in." I was completely flummoxed by his reaction, but I finished the transaction and he paid my asking price and he left with Ms. G. Ms. F followed him out as he was leaving, and she came back in a few minutes later to buy a couple of things for herself. She acted like nothing had happened, and I tried to give her a feeble apology, and she said, "Don't worry about it. He's not going to. So you shouldn't." That was the last time I saw Mr. M in person. His order came in about 5 days later. Ms. G and Ms. F came in to pick up his order, and about a week after that Ms. F told me she wasn't coming back after her scheduled time off. I noticed a couple of weeks later that for the first time in years, I had a downward trend in profit for the month. The following month it was worse. Typically I would order certain games or comics because they were in high demand and I'd have to reorder them twice a month. This time the stuff I had ordered at the beginning of the month was still sitting on the shelf. Since I was spending more time at the store, I started to notice that some of my regulars were becoming irregulars, and I got a chance to have my accountant walk me through the books. That's when I noticed it. Throughout the month there would be these cash purchases ranging about $300 to $500 3 times a week, usually on Tuesdays, which I didn't work on, and on Saturdays and Sundays, which I also didn't work on. So, I reached out to Ms. F and asked her about it, since it looked like those were usually the times when she worked. I started asking about the transactions and she quickly said, "Oh, yeah, that was Mr. M. He spent $1,200 to $1,500 a week there by himself. Basically every week since I started. Which was like, since you opened the store. Right?" Quote. I could literally feel my heart hit my stomach on the way to my knees. I asked Ms. F if he had ever asked to use her employee discount. She promptly said no, but that the money she typically did spend there, $80 to $100 a week, was usually given to her by Mr. M. But wait, it gets worse. The 3rd month after the incident, one of my regulars comes in who hadn't been in for a while. I started talking with him and asked if he knows where everyone had gone. My regular MTG group had dwindled down to about 4 guys coming in, when up to this point it had been a group of at least 50. My miniatures players hadn't been in to play in almost 5 weeks, and the pull boxes were about to be cleaned out because more than 2/3 of my regular comic subscribers just stopped showing up. That's when he tells me, "Yeah, about that. You know Mr. M, right?" Someone shared the video of you berating him on our Facebook group and comic book store owner that isn't you offered him a 15% discount for life. Since Mr. M started going there, they set up miniature tables and started hosting card and board games. Everyone is going there now. I barely paid rent that month. The following month I didn't make rent, and the month after that it was official. I had to close up shop. 2 months after that, I literally moved back into my parents' house. I went over the books as far back as I could. And in the course of the previous 5 years, it looked like Mr. M had spent over $325,000 at my shop. By himself. He never was flashy or flaunted his wealth or anything. But he certainly spent more than enough to cover my lease and utilities. I bring all this up because yesterday, I ran into Mr. M at a local taco joint. He was walking around and you'd never be able to tell he had been in a wheelchair. Ms. G was with him. It's Mrs. G now. She's still gorgeous and charming. They were out picking up a craving for Ms. F. Mrs. F. Maybe? Since she was at home. Pregnant with her and Mr. M's second child. We talked a bit about the pandemic. How some local businesses were hit hard. I brought up that I had heard that one of the local shops survived the pandemic because they got bankrolled by a customer that didn't want to see them close due to hardships. Ms. G gave a giggle at that, and Mr. M tapped the side of his nose and winked at me. Santa Claus style. I died inside. Then I got to watch them drive away in a brand new 2021 Bronco First Edition while I'm still driving the car I did the last time I saw Mr. M. After they left, I sat there in my car thinking about this colossal fuck up. I swear I was cry eating my tacos. Edit. I wasn't expecting anyone to actually read this long-winded post, much less to respond with anything other than, "You're an asshole," or some variant thereof. That being said, I'm resolved to at least getting an apology out there and trying to put my conscience to ease. Contrary to the popular opinion in the comments, I do care about how other people feel, including, but not limited to, Mr. M. And it's mostly because of this that I am experiencing such high levels of shame, embarrassment and anxiety over this whole situation. I don't know if any of you have done anything this mortifying in your lifetimes. But I'm only human. So please keep that in mind while you're rage typing at me about how much of a POS I am. Those of you that think it's fake, I don't know what to tell you. Welcome to Reddit. Say what you want for imaginary points. I'm going to bed now. I'm going to text Mr. M first thing in the morning and see where it goes from there. Thanks. And happy holidays, folks. P.S. I still live with my parents because after all this happened I got a job at a game store in a nearby town. Once my boss found out that it was me that treated Mr. M so badly, he fired me. TLDR. I lost my shit on a regular customer that was spending 3 times my rent and utilities by himself every month. I went out of business and had to move in with my parents. Edit. Typo and grammar. Edit. Forgot to mention I got hired and fired from a job after this happened once people told my boss it was me in the FB video. That is some long-form suicide by words. That's basically why comic shops need to be friendly local gaming shop. Customers can order stuff ourselves for cheaper now. We go to the shops because we enjoy the environment and the socializing with people. If you suck, we won't go. My town's LGS for shut down because the owner was being a dick. And he eventually had to move out of town. Did you ever even apologize to him yourself? Not to his wife. Possibly could have unfucked the situation. Too late now though. To anyone reading this, be a good business owner and look at your books frequently. Not after disaster strikes. As a business owner myself, I'm completely blown away that you were so disconnected from the thing that allows you to stay in business. Where is the money coming from? Also, you should have immediately apologized to everyone involved. Oof. We all have bad days, and sometimes minor things trigger a breaking point. Have to handle yourself better after you make a fool of yourself. We all have to eat shit sometimes. Better if it's fresh. Refreshing to read a genuine food that isn't just sex. That's rough op, but I'm NGL. You earned that one. You calling the temp incompetent while literally not knowing how your business makes its money. That's the funniest bit. We all have our bad moments. Your real foo was not pulling it together the next day and going to his house and apologizing. You should have admitted you had a meltdown. It was completely uncalled for. Offered him the discount he deserved and said you were going to make an appointment with a doctor for some meds. He would have forgiven you. You might even consider doing it now and get the my name as Earl stench off of you so you can really move on. Man, Mr. M is the coolest. So, who's got the video? How does he get relationships and I don't? Your fucking mindset. That's why. Jealous to the point of lashing out in public. So what would you do with a jealousy tantrum in private? I highly suggest you call him. Ask him if he would join you for a drink or two. Don't ask for anything. Make an apology. Wish him and his family the best. And leave with as much grace as you can muster. Sounds like you have some built-up hurt and/or suboptimal habits that aren't helping you. Be kind to yourself and it will spill out to everyone else. Figure out what you're hung up on that makes you treat yourself and others rough. Thank the guy for the support he gave and the example he offered as a person. Forgive yourself for being an asshole. But take steps to alter the beliefs and behavior. Or don't. It's really only going to bother you. Other people will just get out of your way if they have any sense. You kinda just sound like an asshole who regrets losing out on a super wealthy customer who bangs 2 10s at once in a wheelchair. That dude owns you. This is easily the biggest fuck up I've ever seen on here. Well-written story. But feels a little too much like it was probably written by the guy who thinks they're gonna be Mr. M one day and just got told by their local comic book guy that they couldn't get a discount. Literally. All this guy had to do was deliver the goods himself to Mr. M's house and apologize with a bottle of expensive booze or maybe a rare item that he knew the guy would like. Any token gesture of his apology really at all. Just going to be blunt. All the energy you put into making this post and explaining all of this to internet strangers is energy that would have been 100x better spent growing a pair and writing Mr. M an apology to be given to him in person preferably. We've all done things that make us feel ashamed. We're only human. But what separates people is how they respond to their shame and how they turn things around. You fucked up. And again it happens. But your misfortune is a direct product of your inaction since the original mistake. You wrote this post. So you already know you fucked up, and now so do we. You know who doesn't know that? Mr. M. The only person that actually matters in all of this. You may not be able to get things back the way they were. But you can use this to build on a future for yourself and to improve as a person. I saw you mention that you needed a template. I'll respond by saying that apologizing isn't complicated. Here's how it goes, Mr. I wanted to talk to you because I really messed up when you came into the store and I said XYZ to you. And I wanted you to know that it has been my deep shame to have wronged you in the way that I did. Not only should I not have done what I did, I should have apologized sooner. My behavior was unacceptable. As such an amazing customer of my business, you deserved the very best treatment. Nothing I can say or do will change what happened or the amount of inaction that followed over the years. But I wanted you to know that I know I've wronged you. And I'm humbled by the experience and your grace and politeness through it all. Because I deserved worse from you. I deserve nothing from you. But I hope over time we can at least rebuild our personal relationship. If not, I appreciate the opportunity to express these thoughts and feelings to you after all this time. The kicker here that you need to prepare yourself for is that he might act like he has no idea what you're talking about, playing it off to avoid any further conflict. He may legitimately not remember. He may just be pretending to end the conversation. Either way, you should still speak to him and get this off your conscience. Ultimately, you hurt yourself way more than you hurt him. Clearly. So do something productive to healing yourself so you can start moving on. This is step 1. Maybe you should have posted in, "Am I the asshole?" Because you are. I don't think this is a single fuck up. There is a pattern of shit-headedness here. You want to bang his GFS and you don't have enough business sense to know who your best customers are. W. This has to be made up. How do you own a small business where a single customer has spent $325K and you still live at home? Not to mention, how do you have no clue that he was spending that much? Did you think money was just coming in from nowhere? And you seriously closed your business after 1 month of going black instead of trying to improve it? WTFLMAO.
If you enjoyed this video, please check out our playlists full of similar content. Epic Haircast is like doom scrolling for your ears. Please like, share, and subscribe.